All right, everybody. So we're going to get into our next guest now. And our next guest coming up is Emily Ghosh Harris. And I'm really excited to be bringing her on because I actually connected with her on Instagram, saw all of the posts that she was making. I think the first podcast I really saw of hers was the one with Mary Rodwell. And just started following her Instagram and her work that she's doing, really wanted to connect. And I was on her podcast, and now she's here being featured on Portal to Ascension. So I'm really happy and excited to introduce you to her because you're probably going to be seeing her a lot more on Portal to Ascension. And a little bit about Emily. Emily Ghosh Harris is an intuitive guide and multidimensional business mentor, here to help humanity reconnect to their divine gifts, remember what it feels like to love themselves unconditionally, and return to unity consciousness. She is the founder and the CEO of Soul Media, a company focused on elevating conscious companies and spiritual entrepreneurs through digital marketing, holistic consulting, and intuitive business practices. Earlier in this incarnation, Emily received a master's degree in business and spent 15 years in the business world. Her personal path of self-discovery has drawn upon a deep love for astrology, neuroscience, psychology, and energy work, all of which have assisted her in her own embodiment journey and inspired her to combine spiritual tools and business principles in order to create a blueprint for greater energetic flow with the universe, which she shares through one-on-one sessions and in group settings. Eternally curious, Emily is the host of the international spiritual show, The Soul Collective, featuring interviews with inspiring individuals who are dedicated to serving humanity as we collectively ascend and raise the consciousness. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Neil. Wow, thank
You.
you. Yes, thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's so exciting to be here today. So excited. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it. So are you going to do a little presentation or back and forth?
Yeah, I would love to. I have a presentation, or we could.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to be talking about creative alchemy today. So everyone joining, please feel free to share in the chat something that you are calling into creation, something that is on your heart right now, so that we can all be inspired by one another. As Neil mentioned, I am an intuitive guide, a spiritual alchemist, and a studier of evolutionary and galactic astrology. And as we step into this cosmic gateway of creative alchemy, I know many of us intuitively feel like we are on the brink of even greater transformation. And there's many indicators of this change. And it's been, predicted and prophesized that the next 10 to 25 years are going to be a potent time of alchemy and transformation. And some believe that, the Aquarian age is already here. The Aquarian age connects us with higher ideals for humanity. But I really believe that we are on this period of integration and embodiment of coming into the Aquarian age. And, one indicator of this is Pluto. And as Pluto makes its way through the signs, it really brings everything up to the surface, all of those shadow qualities that are really ready to be looked at. And so, we have an opportunity for healing. And simultaneously, amidst all of this change and upheaval, we're also experiencing a tremendously significant ascension cycle where more and more beings on Earth are becoming aware of their multidimensional nature. And this is really profound wisdom that's been hidden from us for centuries. It's been, passed down in mystery schools and ancient wisdom traditions, but now it's really becoming more and more accessible through, amazing sharings like Portal to Ascension and, so forth. We're being able to connect with these abilities that we have. And so it's important to connect with the truth that we each hold a very important puzzle piece And it's activated by our own remembrance. So we are remembering ourselves as infinite creator beings. We're remembering the codes and the keys within our divine architecture. We're remembering that periods that are sometimes looked at as chaotic are also ripe with potential. And so much like, the seed that dissolves itself to become a tree, or the caterpillar that, dissolves itself to become a butterfly, or the phoenix that rises from the ashes, we are in a similar period of rebirthing. And so I'm going to just be talking a little bit about the planetary energies supporting this transformation. I'm going to be, also sharing about the body and the chakras as a vehicle for creation, and providing just some really practical tools for using our consciousness as source to create our own reality. So, let's look at just some of the astrology that's happening right now. Just a few days ago, we had this extremely potent transit. We had a conjunction between Jupiter, the planet of expansion and flow and unlimited possibilities, and Neptune, the planet of spirituality and mysticism and dreams and illusions. And they met in the sign of Pisces. And the last time these planets met in Pisces was in 1856. And so this opens up a portal of creative transformation for us. And it's really such a potent time to be able to connect with those seeds of dreams that we're looking to birth into physical form. And I think it's also, so fortuitous that we are gathering here together on the full moon. We have a full moon in Libra today at 26 degrees. And what I think is significant about this full moon is that, we have the sun in Aries, the moon in Libra, and Pluto in Capricorn forming a T-square. And a T-square in astrology is about tension, and it can be creative tension. It's all about how we use it. And so this tension is inviting us to look at some of the ways that we're maybe giving our power away, and how we can come back and connect with the power within. And, Libra is also the sign that rules. Venus is the planet that rules Libra. So this full moon is all about relationships and intimacy. And we know that, intimacy starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves. And so a couple other, just key transits that I want to share. Much has been shared about the US Pluto return. That was exact on February 22nd. But when Pluto makes a return to, in this case, where it was in the U.S. chart when the Declaration of Independence was signed, it brings to our awareness these, sort of, in this case, it being in Capricorn, it's about looking at patriarchal structures and outdated systems that need to be released. It's about looking at the use and misuse of power. And we know that we are so, collectively connected here on Gaia and beyond. And so, of course, this has a ripple effect that's going to be felt for quite some time. But perhaps, one of the most significant transits during this time is the nodal axes shift that we, entered into this year. The nodes were in Gemini and Sagittarius, and in this year, they moved to Taurus and Scorpio. And the nodes in astrology have a very important significance. They are helping to move us forward evolutionarily. And so when you look at the South Node, it's about what we are invited to let go of, what we're invited to integrate, moving into the North Node, which is about our collective destiny, our evolution and growth. And so for this particular nodal axis between Taurus, which is an earth sign, and Scorpio, which is a water sign, it's about really, looking at action, how we're doing action in the world, which is Mars, one of the rulers of Scorpio, and looking at where that is out of alignment, right? And then looking at perhaps where we're giving our power away, which is Pluto. And as we move into Taurus, we are connecting with our value in the world, our sense of worthiness. And that comes from really a sense of self-love, which is Venus. And Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So these are some of the themes that we're going to be talking about today. But really, when you're looking at these transformational times that we're in, one of the most powerful, potent medicine, I think, is to look at the goddess energy. And Kali is the goddess that is associated with Pluto. She is the goddess of transformation. She helps us to let go of some of these attachments to, whether it's fear or addictions or ego attachment that we are ready to let go of. And what I think is so interesting and so helpful about ancient goddess traditions from all around the world is that they simultaneously hold these qualities of ferocity and pleasure together. And, we have been sort of taught that these qualities are taboo or that they're immoral. But if you look at nature, nature has a ferocity to it. It has a sense of pleasure to it. And so that is what goddess wisdom, can connect us with. It can help us, understand these elements and embrace them as alchemical processes for inviting change into our lives individually and collectively. And it's about really a balance of energy, integrating divine feminine and divine masculine, and returning to nature, returning to the wisdom of our bodies. So just a couple of things that I want to point out about Ascension. There's so much that's being shared about this weekend, so much potent wisdom. But, a couple of things that I think are really significant is that we are descending our divinity into our physical bodies. And in previous ascension cycles, we may have looked at ascended masters leaving the physical bodies, but really this ascension or ascension cycle is all about descending our divinity into our physical body and getting in touch with that divine architecture that resides within. And so, as we activate this, a lot of that dormant energy is stored within our Kundalini, within our DNA. And it is a remembrance that is oftentimes activated through our heart chakra that we're able to, connect with all of our multidimensional aspects, all of these dormant spiritual abilities and gifts. And so as we move into higher dimensional bandwidths of consciousness, that correlates directly with our chakra system, which we're going to be, talking about a little bit today. And that is, just a couple things about the chakra system that I think is so important is that, our chakra system basically has multiple functions. It increases the life force energy throughout our physical body to the organs, through the physical body to our auric bodies. It also, our chakras function as doorways to higher dimensional conscious awareness. And each of our chakras have a unique spiritual and psychological function. And so basically, you can think about this in terms of the way that our chakras are converting subtle energy to physical energy and physical energy into subtle energy. It's the way that we're communicating with the universe. And it is the way that we're bringing things into physical form is through this divine architecture. And, that we have multiple chakras. We have 7 in the body, and then anti-particle chakras that are called morphogenetic chakras that exist outside of the body. But we're going to just be exploring a little bit about, the main 7 chakras as a vehicle for alchemical change. And, at the top of, our crown, we have, our crown chakra, which connects us with the Godhead, with God consciousness. And the third eye is in, the forehead, which is our connection with universal wisdom and intelligence. And we have the throat chakra, which is in the throat, which is our unique and authentic sound signature and vibration. And then we have, the lower 4 chakras, which correspond with the 4 elements. So we have the heart chakra, which is air. We have the solar plexus, which is fire, the sacral, which is water, and then the root chakra at the base of our spine, which is connected with the element of earth. But before we go into 2 of the chakras as a vehicle for creation, I just want to share a little bit about, a glimpse of why connecting and exploring our divine architecture is so important. And whether we're consciously aware of it or not, we are contributing to Gaia's blueprint and beyond. And this is because our chakra system is a personal hologram of the universe. So the more that we can attune to our own inner energetic ecosystem, our own personal hologram, the more that we can go beyond perhaps what we even planned or thought of in this incarnation. And this is really exciting and interesting to really think about because, we have so many facets to our blueprint. We have, our physical elemental blueprint. We have our ancestral blueprint. We have our astrological blueprint and our soul blueprint. And so you think about it in terms of the soul really, intentionally connecting with the intentions and lessons that you want to explore in this incarnation. But when you look at these blueprints holistically, they're really much more fluid than what we would maybe originally think. And so we have the ability to continuously communicate with these through our inner environment. And just a really, really basic example of this, there was a study that was conducted years ago by Ellen Langer, who is a Harvard psychologist. And she took individuals that were in a nursing home in their 70s and 80s, and she brought them into a completely different environment. So instead of, being, kind of cared for and in this, environment of assisted living, they were all of a sudden transported to this environment that was evocative of joy and pleasure and youth. And they spent just a week's time in this new environment. And what's interesting is that they measured the effect on their internal, vital system, and all of their, major biomarkers and indicators were affected positively by this experience. And on average, they aged backwards by 7 years in just a week's time, just by simply changing the environment. And I think this is so, significant because, we can think about it as our external environment, what we're surrounding ourselves by, but also our internal environment. And that is, how are we talking to ourselves? Are we talking kindly? Are we showing ourselves love? All of these things actually affect our DNA. And so this is why the research by Dr. Bruce Lipton was so important, because he found that, the cells communicate actually, DNA is shifted on the cell wall as opposed to the nucleus, which was previously thought. So it's really about that external environment and how it's communicating, which can actually change our DNA. And I'm interested in this, being a twin. You can think about twins, they share the exact same astrological blueprint, but the way they choose to express, of course, we know we have free will, and how we determine what is our reality, how we're creating our environment, of course, is going to affect how our blueprint is manifested. And so we each have a third dimensional template, but that continues to expand, multi-dimensionally. And I want to really share here that the heart is truly a superhighway to higher dimensions of consciousness. And we can go from a deep sleep state to a full awakening through the heart, through connecting with our conscious awareness and intention, to make consistent change in our lives. So we're constantly, creating. We're constantly creating. And I want to go back to what I said in the very beginning about, this next 10 to 25 year period, because we are essentially creating that change in every now moment. And so that's really powerful when we connect with all of the possibilities. So we're going to be, exploring this heart sacral, or also, called the womb chakra connection. We have likely heard about, the heart-brain connection, but I want to really invite us to explore this connection between the heart and the sacral chakra. And I think it's really important for a multitude of reasons right now, because of the change that we're moving through as a collective, because, as I shared, we have the ability to really shift our blueprint through the opening of the heart. But also, what's really significant is when, I talk about the nodal axes between Taurus and Scorpio, that is, Venus and Pluto are the rulers of those signs, and they correlate with the heart chakra and the sacral chakra. So those are really areas of the body, of our divine architecture, that we're being invited to look at, to explore. And if you look at some of the themes that are facing humanity during this time, we can understand why these are such potent areas to look at, and also to help us as creator beings to activate our fullest potential. And so, the heart is located in the center of the chest. It controls our circulatory system, our blood, the breasts, and the thymus, which is the high heart, actually relates to our immune function. But from a spiritual level, the heart is truly the epicenter of our existence. It's the seat of the soul, and it's our ability to really connect with the divinity that resides within all of us. And again, the ruling planet is Venus. And so if we are experiencing an imbalance with this chakra, this might manifest as an inability to let go of previous relationships. It might be an inability to trust yourself or others, a difficult time making decisions and forgiving other people, and just an overall feeling of loneliness. But when we're in balance in our hearts, it evokes a feeling of empathy and compassion and love, and the ability to recognize truth and see the divinity with ourselves and all beings. And so I want to just share a little bit about why the heart chakra is so significant for this time of creative alchemy. Because the heart center helps us to feel and discern what is truth. And because there is so much manipulation that is happening at this time, it's so important that we are in our heart centers so that we can know and feel what is truth for us individually. And so also, we are letting go of this outdated system of power where there are all of these hierarchies and saying, wait a minute, we are all equal. We can all learn from each other. We have so much to learn from the plants and the trees and the animals and the children and the elders. And there's no, system of I'm better than you, you're better than me. But the heart is really the key to help us come back into this greater sense of harmony of seeing ourselves all as equal beings. And then also, the electromagnetic resonance of the heart can solve problems beyond our linear comprehension. And this is already being measured to a certain degree. But when we come into greater heart coherence as a collective, we'll be able to solve problems that previously seemed unsolvable. And also, I want to share that without self-love, we'll always feel that sense of separation or duality. So the heart chakra really brings us up into the fifth dimension, into unity consciousness. Okay, so talking a little bit about the sacral chakra now, which is our center of creativity, our center of pleasure. Our sacral chakra is ruled by the planet of Pluto, because Pluto has the ability to transform and to bring things up to the surface to be looked at. And so that might be emotions that we're holding on to, whether it's fear or insecurity. It almost acts as a propeller to bring this film up to the surface, and we can look at it with soft eyes of awareness, with compassion, with self-love, and all of a sudden those filaments really become they dissolve, they're transmuted. And this is coming into transparency. So out of balance, we'll experience a lack of creativity, a lack of desire, a lack of connection with pleasure. It might manifest, if we have an imbalance in the sacral chakra, it might manifest as addiction or self-sacrificing tendencies. But when we're in balance, we have this connection to our own vitality, our own power, our own creativity. And I want to share why this is so important to us as a collective going through this period of creative alchemy, because creativity is one of our greatest resources, in my opinion. And, our current education system, which will probably be recreated or, reimagined, there is such an emphasis, there's such a focus on linear left brain thinking. And it is the ability to tap into that wellspring of creativity that all of a sudden we can find new ways of solving our problems as a collective. And so also, if we look at a lot of the problems that are expressing right now in humanity, they are what you would consider sacral chakra problems. Problems of power, imbalance of power and greed and sexual misery programs. We've actually been taught and conditioned that pleasure is bad or immoral, and therefore we're disconnected from our bodies and nature. And through this period, we're really being invited to return to our bodies, to return to nature, to return to the feeling of joy and pleasure that resides within. And so this energy center connects us with our own personal power and sovereignty and allows us to create with freedom and joy. And so when we consider this connection, I just want to invite everyone, if it resonates, to perhaps put one hand on the heart and one hand on the sacral or the womb chakra. Just taking a deep breath and feeling that connection, that deep connection between the heart and the sacral chakra. Feeling what are the dreams and the stirrings of your heart. What are your dreams for humanity? What is it that you are calling into creation in this now moment? And the womb really empowers and deepens it. It activates the desires and the intentions of the heart. And how that works is that we're able to bring up those creative desires from this energy center to the heart, and we're able to crystallize these desires into form through sacred geometry, through converting subtle to physical matter. And, we are truly the micro of the macro, because, we have a womb, a sacral center, as does Gaia, as does the cosmic womb, is the cosmic womb of all. And so we're all so deeply interconnected through this energetic connection. So again, in prior incarnations, ascended masters really left the physical body, but that's not what we're doing. We're really connecting with our divine human nature, with our divine architecture, and descending that into the physical body. We basically are able to connect with this higher intelligence. And, there are so many people on Earth that have such profound levels of higher dimensional awareness, but there's so many people that aren't well located in their physical bodies. And, I see this in, some of the communities that I'm a part of, is just a resistance almost to being fully embodied. And, perhaps that's from previous, prior imprints. But, reconnecting with the pleasure of our bodies is one way that we can, that goddess wisdom of finding, the beauty in our physical temples is so important during this time. And, many of us may own a car, and, a car comes with a driver's manual, right? But we have this miraculous divine architecture that's exponentially beyond, a physical car. It just unlocks so much. And we need to create our own way of connecting with our bodies. And so that's how we are really going to receive this cosmic intelligence, is by first feeling it in the body. And, as technology increases, we see, so many technology advances in the world. But it's really not technology that's going to necessarily solve all our problems. It's a shift in consciousness. And, we have the opportunity to really connect with the unified field of consciousness, with nature, with the elements through the physical body. And, I'm just going to share a few practical tools for this that are, coming up. Is it might be movement, whether it's, Kundalini yoga or Tai Chi, or, connecting with sound, chanting or singing or playing an instrument, ecstatic dance, right? many people right now might be called to change their diet or drink more water, all of these ways to nurture and nourish the body in a greater way during this massive time of transformation and change. And, I want to share about the symbolism of the lotus, because I think it's such a profound symbol of these times. The lotus blooms in muddy water, right? And it has the ability to withstand the amount of resiliency that a lotus flower has is incredible. And it really relies on its own roots for survival. And we see this similarly in nature with animals. If there is a storm coming, animals get in their body and they get close to the earth. And I feel like that is, something that we're being invited to do during this time. And, because we may see much more change. We may see, shifts in, currency, for example. We may see, continual shifts in resignation and realignment of vocations. We may see new systems being rebirthed during this time. But when we're well located in our physical bodies, we're able to deal with that change much, much better. So just a couple final, thoughts on co-creating with the universe. We have the ability through connecting with our divine architecture for greater energy, for greater intelligence and love to flow through us as creator beings. And we're able to build this circuitry as we connect with and realize the fact that we are consciously creating. And if you are experiencing resistance or difficulty with this, it's helpful to notice. We can look at the chakras for answers oftentimes. We can look at, okay, where am I in this situation looking for, power outside of myself? Where am I being called to perhaps, give myself a little bit more self-love? And we can create with the seasons. Nature is such a beautiful reflection of how to create. Spring, which we're experiencing right now in the northern hemisphere, is a great opportunity to connect with what we're consciously calling into creation. Fall is a great time to look at rebalancing, reharmonizing. Winter is a great time for rest and integration. So we can always look at nature for showing us ways of creating with greater grace and ease. And I want to mention Chiron, because Chiron's been profoundly helpful in my own healing and growth journey. And Chiron is an asteroid, which is often referred to as the wounded healer. Barbara Handclough has an amazing book called Chiron that I highly recommend, but she basically describes how Chiron, interacts with different signs and different houses of your natal chart. But there's always medicine there waiting for us when we integrate the lessons from this deep imprinted wound and how we are able to move forward through that process of healing. Again, we know that everything, even our thoughts, have a chemical reaction, and this has been, tested and measured. And so, thoughts that are negative have acidic effects on the body, whereas, thoughts of gratitude and love and compassion, they have an alkalizing effect on the body. So being consciously aware of how we're thinking, how we're creating, and spending time actually visualizing can be such a powerful tool. I just want to share like a quick, fun, manifestation. In October, I was on a plane and I was flying out to Oklahoma, and I was just, kind of thinking and creatively, drawing. And at that time, I didn't know Neil, and I didn't, I had a limited understanding of portal to ascension and the magnitude and profound nature of all the sharings. But I, wrote down Portal to Ascension on that plane ride as, something, that was drawing my curiosity and excitement. That next morning at 5 o'clock, I received a message from Neil inviting me to speak at this conference. And I share that because it's such a great example of how we're all so interconnected through this unified field of consciousness. And so if something isn't appearing in physical form yet, it is in your field. It's just a matter of crystallizing that into form. And so a final thoughts on, really this time of creative alchemy and transformation. If we entered in without any prior understanding of, childbirth, and we, walked in on that process with no understanding of what was on the other side, we may look at that as a truly negative experience, right? Or a painful experience. But on the other side of that is life, is, one of the most miraculous experiences of existence. And so similarly of this time is that we can really look at it from a broader lens of what we're collectively creating and all of the potential that's held within what may be considered chaos. I think that there will be a time in the future, maybe not so distant, when transformation is more of like a creative, artistic process that incorporates music and movement and sound and, more instantaneous healings. And I don't think that we're too far off from that. There is a beautiful tradition in Buddhism, which is the jeweled web. And it's something that I want to share because it is really connecting with the imagery that we are all part of this infinite web, and each one of us is a jewel on that web. And to really honor all of creation, and see the divinity that resides within all beings. And just, for us personally, we're on this constant state of ascension and growth. And so, even if we've made it to a certain part of our spiritual journey, there's always going to be more to discover. And really, not judging what is arising, but really looking at everything as an invitation to grow, an invitation for creative transformation, and really releasing the story can be so profound. So just inviting us all to step into our full power as infinite creator beings, and as we live really more in the vibration of love and harmony and abundance. And as we cultivate that and call that in, we'll see that more and more reflected in our external world. So sending you all infinite gratitude and blessings and thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Emily. Incredible. And I forgot until this moment about you writing down Portal to Ascension and how it all manifested, and those are the validation of the universe that we're on the right track,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What really stood out for me, one of the things was, well, a lot of things you said, but definitely the heart womb sacral connection, as opposed to the heart gut one that we say a lot. But the womb is definitely a portal. I mean, souls come through it, even like the sacral chakra for the men, right? Both reproductive organs. So it's a portal. So it only makes sense to really connect our heart to it so that we can bring in love through that portal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Joan, you want to say anything?
Your work on the heart resonance, I thought, was really profound and beautiful. This is not used to having a headset, guys. You have to excuse me. Your energy carries this very deep resonance of
Volume went down again, Joan. I think your headset unplugged.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to take it off again in a minute. But thank you so much for your beautiful presentation. I just want to start with that. And by your clarifying, I think the ways we can use the heart, how the heart connects to our different chakras and our different just ways of sensing the world. And you had a word like heart, I meant to write it down, heart sentience.
Heart resonance.
Heart, well, besides, there was another, it seemed to me another word too, but it's just extremely powerful. Thank you so much, Emily. And I just loved that you had written it down and the next day you hear from Neil. That is truly the way we work here.
It's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much.
And also the potential within the chaos. I love that too, because, you know, the chaos isn't bad, even though it sounds bad. We've given a negative connotation to the word chaos. But ultimately, like, there was the singularity, right? The cosmic egg, the infinite potential. And when the cosmic egg or the singularity burst into countless possibilities, that was the beginning of order and chaos in the duality expression. So the infinite singularity burst into countless possibilities. So that chaos is the experience of source in so many different ways and forms, right? It's just energy, and it all depends on how you kind of utilize that energy to cultivate your experience, right?
Such a great point.
Mm-hmm. Emily, thank you so much. Do you want to go ahead and let everybody know how they can find out more from you, and also about your podcast and whatever else you have coming up?
Yeah, sure. So my website is emilyghoshharris.com, and I also have a live show that I co-host with Brooklyn Rain, and it's called Unity Live, and that can be found at opentotransparency.org.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Emily. We'll definitely be seeing you quite a lot more, hopefully, on Portal to Ascension.